Salutations, dear viewers, this is George from Ireland. Here I am in London at West Smithfield. Behind me you can see a memorial to Sir William Wallace. There's the lion rampant up top. That's an alternative symbol of Scotland. Well, who was William Wallace? He was someone who was born in late 13th century Scotland. The date isn't quite clear. And he's best known for leading a fight for Scotland to be a separate country. It was not successful in his lifetime, but was 9 years after his death. He wasn't the working class hero as depicted by that 96 film Braveheart. He was born into a solidly middle class family. Well, upper middle class, landowning, that's why Sir William Wallace. They would have owned at least several horses. Now, in those days, it was a few magnates, people with the title Lord and Earl and so on. They controlled the country. They helped the king, and bishops likewise, who were overwhelmingly drawn from the patrician classes. So the King of Scots died, and his heir was his granddaughter, who was living in Norway. So she was an infant. When she got a little older, she was brought back to Scotland to be Queen of Scots. However, almost as soon as she set foot in Caledonia, she fell ill and died. So the various descendants of the previous king, distant relatives, had to thrash it out, and they asked King Edward I of England to help them decide, and he chose John Balliol, the Tomb Tabard, or Empty Coat as he was known, because he was felt to be a marionette of Edward I of England. Longshanks was Edward I's moniker. Anyway, on to William Wallace. So later he led a rebellion for Scotland to regain her independence, because Edward I later chose himself to be King of Scots. And he did have some claim to that. He did have some Scots ancestry, and there have been previous agreements whereby the King of Scotland represented the King of England as an overlord. Now, that had often been through having his arm twisted, but that was the way it worked in the Middle Ages. Anyhow, so William Wallace was not entirely successful. He did invade northern England. He stormed York, which is the second largest city in England. However, he was eventually defeated, captured, brought down here, and executed, hanging, drawing and quartering, as a scene of great pathos, as shown in that film, Braveheart, a film that was seismic in its effect on the world, and very popular even in Latin America. People were asking me all about it. So then you can see the Scots saltires at the bottom. It's got a quotation in Irish, or Scots Gaelic as you may prefer to call it, Bos Agus Bua, either means death and then a third word, and a little bit in Latin. And I'm not that good at Latin. I say to you that true liberty is the best of things now, and I can't quite get the rest of it. Serve under connection, I live, sons. So that is that. And that's where he was put to death. The idea was he was a traitor because Edward I was his sovereign lord, and so by rebelling against him, he had turned against God's order. Might seem to be drivel to you, but these were very dark and brutal times. Our idea of chivalry is largely bogus. It was very unchivalrous times. It was long before the Geneva Convention. And I know the films often depict the English army as being horrific. I don't think they were particularly bad by the standards at the time, but his army was particularly worse. Of course, there's some English people who are ghastly, and that doesn't mean that people of other nationalities aren't bad too. Don't have a strong feeling, don't have to take sides. Notably, this was put up in 1956, this plaque here, and it's a time when the idea of Scots separation seemed to be absolutely for the birds. Almost nobody wanted it. The SNP was a joke back then, getting under 2% of the vote, and the even idea of devolution had disappeared. In the late 40s, there had been a very strong campaign, massive petition for devolution for Scotland, and Parliament, the three major parties, all said no, very firm no, and then the idea dropped from public consciousness. Yet still this was put up here. Right, I'll switch it off now.